This evening's Yukon City Council and Yukon Municipal Authority meeting. It is April the 15th, approximately 7 p.m. We're gathered here in council chambers in the Centennial Building, the great city of Yukon, Oklahoma, 12 South 5th Street. This evening, our invocation will be given by Brian Tyson of Pathway Church, followed by our flag salute. Will you rise if you're able?
Let's pray. Father, we thank you so much for who you are. We thank you for your love for us. We thank you especially during this week as we remember your sacrifice on the cross and your resurrection, that the only hope that we have is in you. Father, we thank you for our great city. We thank you for Yukon. We thank you for our residents. We ask that your hand of favor and blessing and protection would continue to rest on the city, on the residents, on the employees. Father, we thank you for this night. We give this time to you. We invite you into this place. We ask for the leadership of this city, that you would continue to give them your divine wisdom and guidance. We love you and thank you. We give this time to you. We're nothing without you. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Pillmore,
Here.
Wooten,
Here.
Selby, Shriver,
Here.
Zimmerman.
Here.
This evening, I'm really pleased to have so many of you joining us. As a reminder regarding procedure and decorum of this city council meeting, we follow Robert's Rules of Order. The city council additionally may only speak to items as they appear on the agenda at each time the item is formally considered. The visitor section, which is, again, placed later in the meeting due to the number of items that require action before staff may be dismissed, provides an opportunity for any attendee to address the council on any matter related to the city of Yukon or the Yukon Municipal Authority for up to 3 minutes. Also, at approximately 7:45 p.m., we might push a little bit as we make progress here. The Yukon City Council will recess from council chambers, reconvene at 8 p.m. at the Yukon Police Department to take part in a best practices handbook training from the Oklahoma Municipal Assurance Group. It's our insurance company. They'll be training us on proper governance and training council members, which is an outcome from our forensic audit as one of the recommended outcomes. This special study session is posted on a separate notice for the agenda. It's a training program. It is open to the public. There's no City of Yukon business that will be conducted there. At this time, we'll have our time of presentations and proclamations. I'm so proud to have so many veterans here. Would you mind joining us at the front for Marvin Compton Day Proclamation? Marvin, thank you so much for your service, sir. It's an honor to meet you. We'll now give the proclamation honoring Marvin Compton, World War II veteran for 75 years of membership in the American Legion. It's with deep respect and heartfelt gratitude that we recognize Marvin, a distinguished World War II veteran who faithfully served as a member of the American Legion for an astounding 75 years. Marvin bravely answered the call to serve during one of the most pivotal times in world history, contributing to the success of our nation's efforts during World War II and ensuring the preservation of liberty and freedom for future generations. The American Legion, as the nation's largest veterans organization, has been a source of strength, solidarity, and support for those who have served in the armed forces, and Marvin has been an active and devoted member, promoting the values of patriotism, service, and community. For 75 years, Marvin has exemplified the very spirit of the American Legion through dedicated service, both as a veteran and a community leader, uplifting and supporting fellow veterans while inspiring others to uphold the legacy of those who served. Marvin's commitment to the American Legion and the values it represents stands as a testament to his lifelong devotion to his country, his brothers and sisters in arms, the ideals of freedom and democracy for which he fought. We, the City Council, do hereby proclaim and honor Marvin Compton for reaching this remarkable milestone, 75 years of membership of the American Legion. We express our deepest appreciation for your courage, sacrifice, and unwavering service. We celebrate exemplary dedication to veterans in our nation, hereby proclaiming April the 15th today as Marvin Compton Day.
So, wanted to say a couple words. Thank you, Mayor. So, that's 75 years. That's not, that's 75 years in the Yukon American Legion. I've never heard of anybody being more than 50 years, so that's truly incredible. So he's turning 100 years at the end of this year. Pretty incredible. His father actually was one of the founding members of the post. He was his father was a World War I veteran. Yeah, he worked in the Yukon post office. He enjoys sports.
Disability, Marvin?
Graduated from Yukon High School in 1943. He started off in World War II, serving as a merchant marine, delivering war supplies. And then he joined the U.S. Army, deployed to the Pacific, participating in the invasion of Mindanao in the Philippine Islands. And then he served as a first sergeant in MacArthur's Army headquarters in Seoul, Korea. So he's been around. The post was huge back in the day. His wife and mother were in the auxiliary and presidents of those. And he has 3 grandchildren, 6 great grandchildren, and we've got a son over here and daughter. And so we have the coveted 75 years certificate. So that's truly incredible. Did you want to say some words, sir?
No, sir.
So there you go. So thank you for your service, and thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Squeeze it. Suck it in.
At this time, we'll recess as Yukon City Council and reconvene as Yukon Municipal Authority. We'll take up the Yukon Municipal Authority consent docket. The city manager recommends a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of April 1st. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing no more discussion, Madam Clerk, could you please call a vote?
Zimmerman,
Yes.
Wooten,
Yes.
Pillmore,
Yes.
Shriver.
Yes.
At this time, we'll recess as Yukon Municipal Authority and reconvene as Yukon City Council. Similarly, we'll take up the Yukon City Council consent docket. The city manager recommends a motion that will approve the minutes of the regular meeting of April 1st, 2024, payment of material claims in the amount of $1,421,584.04, designating the items on the attached list from the Technology Department as surplus and authorizing their sale, trade, donation, or disposal, the resignation of Sherry Houston from the Board of Adjustments Ward 1, and appointment of Kenneth Floyd to the Board of Adjustments Ward 1 seat, as recommended by Council Member Zimmerman. The medical disability retirement for Dawn Reister, the appointment of Lonnie L. Courtwright for Spanish Cove trustee number 6. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing no more discussion, Madam Clerk, could you please call the vote?
Pillmore,
Yes.
Wooten,
Yes.
Shriver.
Yes.
Zimmerman,
Yes.
Excuse me. At this time, we'll have a financial report from City Treasurer Kristen Rydeen.
Mayor, if I may, please,
Oh, I'm sorry, Matt.
while the treasurer is moving into place, I wanted to recognize Brian Chris, our new finance director for the city. Brian, if you'll raise your hand, today is Brian's first day.
All right.
Did you have a speech ready?
Speech. Okay, let's see. So tonight I'm going to present to you the financials for March. Let's see if I can get that. All right. Well, oh, guess got to turn it on. Okay. So the first slide is just, again, like this is going to be in the same format as the past few months, but so the first slide is summary of the bank account balances. They stayed generally the same. The bottom line here, I didn't label it, but that shows the interest over the past 5 months. So this month we had a little bit of increase in our interest because we had 2 CDs. We rolled those over and those paid out the interest. So we had a little bit of extra interest this month, but all the other balances generally stay the same. We did have, the only change really is in the sinking fund. It went from about 600,000 to 275, and we made our bond payment for the year, so that's why that account decreased. Okay. Next slide is the total of our CD investments by fund. So what these, again, these CDs are, stacked maturity dates. And so most of them will pay out the interest at the, the end when they roll over and the interest capitalizes. So we've got about 200,000 of accrued interest on our pool fund CDs. So the balance increased about $500,000 or $600,000 from last month of accrued interest plus the interest that we received. And then here's just a pie chart of the total investments, by fund and what percentage of the total investments. So last month, our sales tax collections were up just a little bit, and that's, following a trend. So we've got, for the year to date, we've got a total collections of $23 million. We still have a year-to-date decrease of about $800,000, or we're down about 3.4% from the previous year in sales tax collections. And this again is the distribution of the sales tax. So as I explained last month, we get the total sales tax deposit, and then that's split between different funds. So 2 cents of that goes to the sales tax. About a portion of it goes to capital improvements and debt service, and a portion of it goes to the pest funds. And I put a little more information this time down about the year-to-date, how that's split between the general fund and sales tax, and the public employee sales tax and the reserve funds. So, okay. Use tax collections are up a little bit this month. Year-to-date collections are about 3.6 million. We have overall about a 7.1% increase over the previous year on use taxes. Again, this next slide is just a distribution of, so we'll get the total sales tax deposit, and 30 cents of that goes into the general fund, and 1 cent goes and is reserved for sales tax improvements and debt service. All right. The other taxes we have in the general fund are gas and tobacco tax. So the reason this one's down, as I said last month, we have the state withholds the tobacco tax prior to us completing the audit, and I believe that should be completed within the next couple months. HBC's done it, and so once they complete that and it's published, we will get the gas taxes for the year. All right. Franchise fees are electrical franchise. Again, I think I spoke last month about we were missing an OG&E deposit, and we still haven't received that check, so that's why the electrical franchise is down just a little bit over a year. Again, the telephone, we will receive that payment in June. And other than that, revenue varies from month to month on what we get on the franchise fees. But other than those 2, I think we're, pretty much in line with budget, a little bit off on the cable. But let's see, revenue side. Yep, sure.
Kristen, you have your electrical franchise through February was $364,000, and your 550,000 through March, but the current period is only 54. Do you book something in an earlier period?
Yeah, I think we got, so we're still missing, we got the franchise for this month. We're still missing 1 franchise payment, because I got an email about it, and so, is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, I'd like to look at that in a little bit more detail.
Yeah, I can
That'd be
get you
helpful.
some more detail on that.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. And, okay, so let's see. So the next slide is the revenue summary by type. This is just a split out of the type of revenue we get. So we've got taxes, franchise fees, license permits, fines and forfeitures, use of property, and special revenues and transfers. And the main thing that's out of, a little bit under budget is the franchise fees, and that's due to what I just kind of explained. But I think once we get that payment, we'll be in line. And also license and permits, I believe at the beginning of spring is when we got a lot of building permits. So I think that will increase, and we'll get up to our budget on that. This is just another pie chart of the split out of this type of summary we get by revenue. As you can see, the majority of it comes from sales and use tax. This next slide is the general fund expenditure summary by department. As I said last month, legislative is a little bit higher on budget due to, we had some encumbrances for the, what was it? Consulting fees. So that's a little bit higher. And the finance department is a little bit high because we had a payout from the last, in the finance department. So it's a little bit over budget right now, or higher than the 75% where we are in the year. But other than that, everything's pretty much under budget. So that's good for all the departments are staying within their budgets. Here's just a graph of the general fund revenue and expenditures. And again, that November, I mentioned the November was high because of the 3 pay periods. And next is a summary of enterprise revenues and expenditures. So the water and sewer, sanitation, and stormwater. We've got pretty much in line with budget there. The only thing on this one that stands out is the stormwater. Again, we had that's employee cost related, so we had a position that wasn't filled part of the year. So that's why stormwater, the percent of budget is down a little bit. But everything else within the enterprise fund, it looks within our budget for the year. And here's just another chart showing the revenue and expenditures for the year up to now. And let's see what else. All right, that's it. Did you have any questions besides the enterprise? I can get you the detail of the
That was really,
franchise.
really helpful, Kristen.
Oh, thank you.
Next up, we'll have City Manager Mike Castro giving a brief update about the NAFA resolution and
Mayor, I'm going to turn it straight over to Mitch, who's going to provide the update
Oh,
tonight.
beautiful. Mitchell?
Alrighty, well, I'm gonna make it a little bit short tonight. We actually are working on 35 different policies and procedures. Within the next 4 weeks, we'll be making a dent and completing a bunch of those. During that process, we're actually coming up with a sheet, because some of the policies, instead of having that many for the departments or the employees to sign, we're breaking it up, and they're gonna be a sign-in sheet. We're gonna break it up for general employees, and then IT and finance and so forth. So we are working on that, just letting you know. So we will be bringing it forward, those that come to you. I know that there is some reports that are required to be done, so we'll be making those quarterly reports as we're required to do. Like I said, we'll be finishing up a bunch of this. As you know, last time we had a bunch that we done, so we're going to continue to work. So if you have specific questions, let me know.
I don't have any questions at this time. Does
Okay.
anybody else have questions for Mitchell? Thank you for the update, Mitchell.
Okay.
We'll look forward to seeing you next month.
All right.
Mr. Yenzer will now present his report based on his human resources and payroll review that was started 2 months ago. Welcome, Mr. Yenzer.
Good evening, all. I have a loud voice, so I'm going to step away from the mic a little bit. First off, I appreciate the opportunity to be able to look at these sorts of things and to be able to put an objective eye on these sorts of matters. In my career, I found that when it comes to human resources, it's always something that needs to be looked at with an open and fresh perspective, and one that is not continually mired in the people in the trenches doing the work that often cannot see the things that might be around them or just frankly do not know. Not to be too laborious, I want to be a little bit more like our retiree and actually say less than more, but also I want to make sure that the findings from my report are heard and also that my advisement can be given with an open mind and two open minds. And again, at the end of the day, anyone wanting to execute on any of this advisement is free to do so. It is merely that. I'll start off with a summary, and that's just for anyone who has not read this report. And that is this project was proposed to my company with hopes to identify and resolve any existing or potential areas of concern regarding the current payroll or HR processes facing the city of Yukon. And this is a follow-up to the broader NAFA forensic audit that occurred last year. I was tasked with 6 areas of focus, and that involved full population reviews of the sick and vacation payouts since January of 2024, employee timekeeping verification through 2024, analysis of payroll adjustments, and verification of the retirement plan accuracy. It creates a more detailed picture of what type of errors could have occurred, while also it highlighted an over-reliance upon trust to serve as the only thing keeping fraudulent or exploitative behavior from occurring. And I'm going to go back a lot to trust and hope and goodwill. But it's directly due to an over-reliance of trust that renders even audits such as these to be less effective, due to a severely deficient model of real-time employee tracking and verification and an inability for the HR department to act autonomously in the event of an issue. That is created not by the current state of your city, but rather one that has occurred across all municipalities and just reporting structure, an expectation of normalcy and keeping on with what has worked because it worked in the past. But sadly enough, if you were to have anyone in those higher positions that acted in bad faith, they could authorize actions that could not otherwise be scrutinized. And it's not any sort of indictment of anyone in those positions, but rather an opportunity for exploitation. And that's what I want to help you alleviate. I urge anyone reading this report or those listening here to take my advisement to heart and refuse to respond with any variation of "this is just how municipalities operate." Instead, seek to close those same organizational blind spots that have seen so many cities lose taxpayer funds trying to resolve misspent resources while perpetuating an organizational structure that actually reeks for opportunities for corruption if it is led by the wrong people. The methodologies that I used were investigating the payroll and organizational systems, and that's one where I pulled information from past data as requested, and I combined that with speaking with administrative professionals directly to ascertain precisely how simple it would be to exploit a system. Again, those people in the trenches, those eyes on things all the day, can often provide the best insights to what could happen. But also, it's sometimes revelatory when I mention something that very well could happen and no one had thought about it before. I'll present to you the 6 different parts of this project as briefly as possible, but I want to be able to construct a clear picture of the overall issues, and those include outdated tracking systems, general lack of checks and balances, existing or authoritative loopholes that could be exploited, and an overall need to modernize not only your human resource information systems, which I might refer to as HRIS, that software, but also seeing a purposefully flat organizational structure that lends itself to bad faith behavior being perpetuated with nothing more than, again, hope that no one else abuses the powers they've been given by the nature of their professional position. When I walk into all of my clients, the first thing I look at is their organizational structure. I work with many startups. They have a very flat organizational structure, and as they grow, they have to get to a point where they broaden that out, where there's checks and balances, where there's no one person that is above all. And instead, people can ask questions, people can make recommendations, and more importantly, people can whistleblow in wrongdoing. And I do not see that in the current existence with the organizational chart as it stands today. The test work area 1, just to be brief, occurred during July 1st, 2021 to December the 31st of 2024. It was a full population, and it was looking into vacation and sick leave payouts in reference to the issues being brought up by the previous audit. Some of the errors and omissions that I saw were the previous city manager having resulted in an exemption being made in a payout schedule that was specifically created for.
If I could stop you for a second, let's be clear
Absolutely.
when we designate city manager, past city manager.
I'm sorry, I thought I said that. No, I will be referring to doing that time frame, past
you,
city
sir.
manager, and I absolutely understand that you have
Thank
not
you,
been
sir.
here for most of that time. All of it, really. All right, so the past city manager, that exemption was made and paid out accordingly. And really, it was because if the city manager or anyone else told HR to do anything, they were expected to do so. Fall in lockstep, make sure. I hate it when I see HR departments functioning as paper pushers that really are just told what to do, to nod, and to comply. I had to do it for many years in my career. I don't like to see it happen, and I will get back to that. There were 3 employees that are still employed with the city, and they've been cited in the forensic audit as having more vacation than teemingly allowed. That was resolved, and it is going to be completely exhausted by the middle of this year. So all those things taken into account, already sorted. My advisement, due to the key risks, where that little oversight of a city manager position, being that there is no one that serves above the city manager or adjacent to the city manager, except for the city council. There's just no shared accountability nor adherence to policy if that person were out of line. There's just no one to ask those questions and no one that feels empowered to be able to do so. I would advise that either a distinction should be specifically placed in the personnel manual, citing the difference between any maximum allotments allowed by the city manager and to align their signed contracts as such, or this position should have the same requirements as all other employees, just to keep things simple and for the sake of simplicity. It would remove any misconception for the HR department where they would potentially be required to waive any concern. Test work area 2 was again around that vacation and sick time. However, that was just for the most recent payroll period under scrutiny. And again, the 3 people that were cited have been taken care of, and there were no additional instances of abuse or miscalculation in vacation or sick leave. The tracking mechanics, while dated from a technological standpoint, are being managed with accuracy and integrity by the HR department. My advisement in that would be to ensure that the numerical total of sick time should be reduced in a calendar year, and that's updated in the personnel manual, page 46, section B, approximately. And to make sure that there's also a simple calculation and direct verbiage so that anyone reading it can understand it. Of course, this is their sick time and vacation time. They should know how it's being managed and if there are any limits. Test work 3, which was the entire calendar year of 2024. The scope was, again, the logging process of sick and vacation leave. I did not observe any gaps in the recording or the reporting of this information. That is an attached file. And all adjustments were justified, and any donated hours were cleared through the HR department efficiently via direct email. However, that correspondence can get lost, and at the end of the day can turn into quite a bit of back and forth from the HR department, which at its heart is a bit inefficient. Risk from that is the current software that's being used to run the payroll and generate those reports results in an exhaustive list of employees, to be exact, 518 pages in total that I reviewed. And that has to be combed through should there be any future audits. And that is going to slow things down and honestly create some inefficiency. Any negligent employees cited, only a handful of employees were observed to have had any leave adjusted manually during the course of the year, and that instance was cited with specific reasoning to do so. There was never an identified pattern of noncompliance, and each adjustment originated from a genuine error and properly cited in the report, or the hours being directly donated via those internal channels, again, via email. There was no evidence of unauthorized nor unverified changes having occurred during the course of the entire year, and all observed approvals were accurately processed in accordance with city policies. I will advise that the current methods used for logging and reporting this data have been sufficient in the past. However, it is imperative that the internal HRIS software be updated to Encode 10. It's currently, I believe, 2 versions old. which culminates in about 12 years of updates that haven't occurred. Operating those older versions of software, as we all know, and while it is under the guise of being fiscally conservative, brings with it all manner of inefficiencies. Continuing to maintain that older software is often rooted in a general resistance to adapting to ever-changing needs when it comes to civic management, but it also opens those internal systems, due to them not being updated, to cyber threats and internal tampering, just purely due to the age. I would absolutely advise upgrading that internal software and making sure that the subsequent training occurs so that everyone understands the new software as well as they understand the old. Test work area 4 was a full population review in which I looked at a focus on both salaried and hourly employees, with timekeeping records and timesheets being the focal point. The risks here is that there is an existing honor-based system that has no way to accurately represent work as it currently stands. You have departments that are currently clocking in and clocking out manually, where they are just signing. August of last year, that seemed to change, where they were writing in the time in which they clocked in, clocked out for lunch, clocked back in, and then clocked out, and then signed it at the end. And while I don't believe that anyone misreported that, there's no way to prove it unless they are being observed by cameras 24/7, and you have someone looking at those cameras, you're going to be able to slip through the cracks. And to be frank, I haven't seen manual timekeeping since I was working in probably the 90s, and that just must be updated, and some sort of badge in and badge out being the norm. Currently, your salaried employees, and I don't want to ruin anyone's day, but there's no way to track them. You can trust them, and most companies do trust their salaried employees to work the 40 hours that they are being paid for. But what that also turns into is people working overtime and not being paid for it. You will always find some time and some person that leaves before they should, and while that's completely fine if there's some sort of compensatory time available, if it can be abused, people will abuse it. And at the end of the day, that's going to be a loophole that people will use and exploit. And it should be in some way, shape, or form monitored, or at least considered. Test work area 5 was payroll adjustments. And that was for the entire calendar year of 2024. And I used a risk-based sampling for that scope. And I gathered no evidence of protocol having been ignored nor circumvented, with all observed instances originating either with an apologetic email to payroll from the employee asking for a correction due to the error, or an email on behalf of an employee by their direct supervisor stating that an error had occurred and politely asking payroll to adjust the following payroll accordingly. It's something that I see a lot, but again, that inefficiency of just emailing back and forth, if something gets lost, numbers are going to be off. My advisement in that would be, while the reporting method of using email is sufficient, I would say that more than anything, when and if you have someone leave the HR department, that brain drain that occurs when that employee leaves creates this opportunity for things to get lost in the shuffle, people to think that they were authorized for something when there's no record of it or there's little record of it. So modernizing that with a new HRIS creates an opportunity to just have the employee ask off in the system, have the manager check off in the system that it's been authorized, and it goes automatically to payroll. I also noted that there were many incentive-based adjustments that are being made during every payroll process to reflect the many perks that city employees enjoy. And while those are being handled diligently at present by your HR team, it could be that, again, potential for chaos and errors if they're ever training a new employee to take over the payroll systems and those responsibilities. So take with that how you will, but when you have a succession plan, that has to be thought about. Finally, the test work area 6 was just retirement verification, making sure that 40 active employees and 111 former employees' retirement was in alignment with what had been claimed, and that all those numbers checked out, and they did. My advisement for that would be a review of this information on at least an annual basis, and that way you will not have any chance for further discrepancies, whether accidental nor intentional. Finally, I'd like to make a few extra comments here. The core consideration here is the need to update existing software systems and reporting manners and methods to better align with modern needs and ensure accurate reporting if and when something does go wrong. There has to be an update to your HRIS, to Encode 10, and proper training. It just seems silly to me to operate outdated software, especially with there just being so many opportunities for attack, and I would only think that municipalities would be a target of that sort of thing. The lack of proper timekeeping methods is very close as a second priority. Those current systems may work properly, but that's only if everyone's acting ethically. And while not having a sufficient way to track hours worked currently in place, it's honestly being reported to the supervisors and then being submitted to payroll. And there's not a lot of questions being asked. As long as people sign off on it, it's absolutely okay. And it creates this world where, well, I'm just gonna push that issue or error to someone else. And what might work today creates finger pointing tomorrow. Moving forward, I would encourage the continuation of regular audits in a similar manner to this one on an annual basis and across all relevant departments. However, I ask that you would never utilize the same firm for more than 3 consecutive years, just to ensure that, again, not only does it open up an opportunity for a person to become negligent or to thus be told to overlook things, but also we're all human and we could all overlook something, and having that fresh set of eyes at least every 3 years is something that I would absolutely recommend. Finally, changes to your organization as it stands in its structure. This is not an indictment to anyone that has been here or anyone that currently is working here. But I would tell this to any client. If you have a flat organizational chart, you don't have a place for employees to be able to openly talk about things. You don't have anyone to be able to report to. If they see, it's not the reality in many cases, but if they see a gatekeeper, and if they have any personal relationship and animosity with said gatekeeper, they will not bring things up. They will say, it doesn't matter. And currently, that gatekeeping sits just out of the necessity of the structure. As your assistant city manager, your city manager. And that's just the structure as it sits. It's, again, not an indictment of anyone, but often it's how municipalities work, and it's how they've always worked. And I say, maybe it's time to start rethinking things. You have a lot of people that have retired and left their positions, and honestly, it's a perfect time to be able to look at new structures and not have that twitch in the back of your mind of, am I promoting this person and it's going to look bad, or they're going to think that it's because they were not worthy of the promotion, but rather they just happen to be there. You've got new people. It creates a perfect opportunity to be able to do this. You'll find in my report proposed structure that would sit the city council as the top as it still stands, and then raising the HR director, financial director, and the city attorney and city manager to a flatter level where they are directors of their respective departments, and thus the reporting can happen in that way. It takes work off of the city manager and assistant city manager to be able to have things like whistleblowing reports go up through HR, and then HR to be able to speak directly to you all, instead of, in many ways, and in ways in which previous regimes have wanted it, it has to be checked through the city manager and then up to the city manager on whether or not they want to report it at all. So, as you can see in the report, it's all there. I'm not going to go into each position, but it's broadening out a checks and balances at your top level is absolutely my best advice that I can give you, and one that I would give any of my clients. Finally, in conclusion, the timeline of any changes should be swift and decisive. When looking at updates to software and policy, it is better to spend the money now to get things right and require subsequent training despite any personal excuses in order to ensure everyone is ready to adopt new expectations simultaneously across any department and every department. Those changes to Encode, I would expect that to be a research phase. And I would also advise that not only should the key decision makers be present, but also the people that are going to be inputting that data day to day. They need to be able to be there. They need to be able to also ask questions. Encode is owned by Tyler Technologies. They are a huge firm, and they have many people that would love to sell you all manner of things. Allow them to justify those costs but have people that are boots on the ground and actually working within these systems be the people that actively say yay or nay to this part of the software or that part of the software. More than anything, please do not accept just keeping things the way they are, because that will never see actionable change and improvement. And that is going to result in city technology being right where it is today in another 15 years. And that's a dangerous place. I do not see any reason that this and all of this could not be updated and implemented within a 6-month window. But that will take an aggressive and resolute method of change to implement. Plan for this ahead of time and listen to the concerns along the way so your employees won't be left feeling the burn and resenting this new system before it ever goes live. Once it's changed, don't look back. Push forward and optimize things so that efficiency increases and opportunities for exploitation drop to near zero. You're going to want a timekeeping element in some way. You don't have to have it for salaried employees, but hourly it is integral, because the last thing you want is to not pay someone for an hour worked. My final thoughts are that during my review, I was met with city employees that genuinely wanted to do the best they could, and they had a wealth of applicable knowledge. At no point did I find any errors or omissions that would be deemed to have been rooted in malfeasance nor bad faith. Instead, I found systems that were either thankfully as of yet untarnished or so antiquated that there was no real way to prove malevolent intent. The problem being is that there was no way to truly know. While I do not feel that any single employee with the city of Yukon is out there gaming the system, the problem is that it is a system that can be relatively simple to exploit for personal gain, and that must be fixed as soon as possible. The previous decisions to forego an update and overhaul that encode system, as well as previously choosing not to incorporate any sort of Kronos timekeeping software, which was proposed, I believe, in 2016, but that was abandoned. It leads me to believe that leadership within the city historically just wanted to save money where it could and hope for the best. And while I understand that this may allow people to exist with relative comfort by not having to change with the times, it also opens up multiple opportunities for anyone to exploit that blind spot and to do so with relative ease. I want to stress that my recommendations are not meant to add stress and anguish to an already exhausted personnel, but rather to ask everyone involved to bring the city of Yukon into a more modern working infrastructure that will meet the ever-changing needs of existing within a digital age that has long since passed it by. I urge everyone involved, city council and city employees alike, to never stop asking questions in order to gain a better insight as to why a decision is being made. Never accepting the phrase, "that's just how we've always done it," as a final answer, because in business, that is a fatal statement. I don't advocate for governments acting like businesses, but I truly think that in business and the checks and balances therein existing would go a long way to helping to make sure that people are not overworked, overstressed, and ultimately overburdened to a point that they might miss something. If we're always holding each other accountable, then everyone is ultimately going to grow better than they were the day before. I'll open anything up to questions.
Thank you, Mr. Yenzer. Do any council persons or city staff have any comment?
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Yenzer, did you review the city charter prior to or during the conduct of your review of city operations?
Yes.
Okay. So in your proposal, you propose a new organizational chart.
Yes.
Do you have knowledge that that would require a charter election?
Ultimately, it's not me to say yay or nay, but rather.
But do you understand the process that that would cause to happen?
Yes.
Okay.
And I understand also that that change, again, is going to be very, very hard in the beginning, but something that I do believe could happen.
That change is not up to council. That change is really up to the citizens.
And that's
It's
why
a
I'm-
charter election.
Absolutely.
So it's nothing that can be implemented unilaterally.
Correct.
Okay. I know there were past problems with city management, and I'm not here to debate that. But is it also possible that during that time period, who is responsible for oversight of the city manager?
As it's cited, the city council.
Okay, thank you. Did you and I at any point in this process sit down and either review or talk through the audit?
I did not. I sent an email at the beginning of this process to anyone that was in charge, as I saw it, anyone that might be
Am I not
reporting.
in charge?
You were on that email, sir, and it was sent then to Cindy, who was the former.
I was frankly
HR
shocked
director.
that you didn't sit down and talk with me.
I was frankly shocked that I never received a response to that email other than, please speak with Cindy, our HR director.
I've been through a lot of audits in a 28-year city manager report. I don't ever recall a single instance where an auditor did not seek me out.
I understand that.
Not
Do-
once, not once, in probably hundreds of audits.
Yes. But also,
Just a point.
I was here to audit the HR department and the payroll, and given the criteria therein. And frankly, this is not to speak to you not being in this position, but most of this review period was done before you assumed this position. So it wasn't to disrespect, I promise you that, but rather once that email was sent to Cindy as the person as my contact, I took that as it was, and I believed it.
My statement stands. In 28 years as a city manager, I've never been through an audit where the auditor did not seek me out, sit down with me, talk through the audit, and after the completion of the audit, come in and talk with me individually and go through the findings. And I say that hundreds of audits that I've been through, and this is the first time that that's occurred. NCO 10, let's talk about NCO 10 for just a second. I want to get this to the governing board here, City Council. It was proposed in 2016, and the comment was made it should have been adopted then. Again, NCO 10 in 2016 was a piece of crap. It was a horrible product. Nobody wanted to be using NCO 10 in 2016, I promise you that. It might be better now. I kind of think that if we all remember back to Windows 8, nobody wanted to use Windows 8. They went right next to whatever the next version of Windows was. But in 2016, and probably for several years after that, NCO 10 was not a good product. Real quick too, the story of Duncanville, Texas. Duncanville, Texas migrated from Encode 9 to Encode 10. And they tried to save money. They were going to bring folks from Tyler Technology in to help them with the process. They thought they would save some money. They didn't bring in the consultants. The city of Duncanville went 4 years without an audit. The books were that bad, that corrupt. There were 2 sets of books because they never fully made that transition, because they never invested in making that transition. And to say that you can make an ERP migration in 6 months is crazy. Again, 28 years of doing this. It's crazy. So I'm going to thank you for what you presented tonight. I think there are some really good points in there. I am glad to hear that there were no reported incidents, and I think that's the important thing for council to hear. There are no reported incidents of staff abusing the system or staff taking deliberate actions to abuse aspects of the position. I'm mindful of the fact that we have antiquated systems. I would hate to think that we're going to make change for the sake of making change. I am still somewhat of an Encode 10 skeptic, but I will give it a fair shake and we'll look at it, and I'm happy to do that. But I'm not going to rush that through. It's an ERP program, and if it's done poorly, it impacts everyone here tonight. And by that, I mean water bills that are bad, HR processes that are bad, finances that are bad. If we're going to do Encode 10 as an upgrade, it needs to be something that is well thought out in advance and not rushed through. Getting back to the org chart for a second. To take the finance director position and to take the HR director position and also the city clerk position out from under the city manager and move that to a flat structure as we've advocated is not only just a change to the charter, it is a change to our form of government. It moves us significantly towards a strong mayor form of government. It moves us significantly towards a commission form of government. One of the two, I'm not really sure. It also is a breach of my contract with the city if it happens while I'm your city manager. I would not agree to that contract change, ever. I'm not a fan of that kind of movement. I would propose, and we're making a step tonight, I would propose that oversight of the city manager is also something that needs to be looked at. And that council, again, we're all looking through a backward lens here, but council should also consider their oversight of my office and how that occurs. And Mayor, we've talked about that in the past. So it's not a new topic for us. I think there is value to this study. I like it. And there's a lot in there for me to read and a lot in there for me to consider. There are some aspects to this that I find significantly wrong, and I want to go on record in that regard. I'll follow it up with a written response. Thank you, Mayor.
Very good. Thank you, City Manager. Any other council comments on the report from Mr. Yenser? Yeah, I echo Mike's sentiments there in terms of our structure of our city government. We, in our charter, have defined a council manager government, and we are committed to that. The citizens should understand that form of government. There's a very close working relationship between the council and the city manager, and we have a responsibility as the council and as the board of Yukon Municipal Authority to oversee, to govern, to inquire, but not to manage. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Mr. Yenser, for your work. We appreciate you, and thank you for your service to our city in other ways.
Thank you, Mr. Yenser.
Now we'll consider a motion to vote on behalf of the City of Yukon for two Oklahoma Municipal Assurance Group (OMAG) Board of Trustees. This is our insurance company that the city has a number of coverages through. I move that we vote for Tim Crisp of Waynoka and Daniel McClure of McLeod. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? I'll just add that Mr. Crisp has served as an elected official for 30 years and has a tremendous amount of experience with municipal insurance, seeing that Waynoka is covered by 3 different areas of coverage by OMAG. And Daniel McClure serves as mayor of McLeod, and he's been on the front lines even in the recent days with some of the fire and some of the emergency management that's occurred in their part of Oklahoma. So I think we could trust both of these elected officials to represent us well on the OMAG Board of Trustees. Seeing no more discussion, Madam Clerk, could you please call the vote?
Wooten,
Yes.
Pillmore,
Yes.
Zimmerman,
Yes.
Shriver.
Yes.
Now we'll consider appointing one member and 1 or 2 alternates to serve on the Association of Central Oklahoma Governments Board of Directors, 911 ACOG Board of Directors, ACOG MPO Policy Committee, and Garber-Wellington Association Policy Committee. I make a motion that to move that Councilwoman Shelley Selby would serve in the appointed member with no alternate at this time. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing no more discussion, Madam Clerk, could you please call the vote?
Zimmerman,
Yes.
Wooten,
Yes.
Shriver,
Yes.
Pillmore.
Yes. Just add that Councilwoman Selby has served in this position for 4 years and represents us well on the ACOG Board of Directors. Now we'll have a discussion and possible action on ordinance number 1471, an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Yukon, Oklahoma, to authorize and regulate the operation of slow-moving vehicles, including golf carts and utility vehicles, on designated city streets, providing for definitions, registration, safety requirements, restrictions, and penalties, and declaring an emergency. I'll make a motion to amend this ordinance based on feedback we've received to move the city streets definition from 35 to 30 miles an hour and leave the remaining ordinance the same. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on this item? Seeing no more discussion? Oh, go ahead.
Sir.
Sorry, go ahead. Yes, Zach.
Zach Castle, 728 Villa Avenue. And I had a question on the amended motion now. Why?
Why the reduced speed limit, or why?
Well, not the reduced speed limit. Why allow for these vehicles to roll on our city streets?
Any
What is the purpose of amending to have this ordinance to amend?
Yeah, I think
this definition?
it facilitates alternative modes of transit during daylight hours. I think it's 30 minutes after sunrise, 30 minutes before sunset. So during daylight hours with proper reflective devices on slow-moving streets. Envision, within your own neighborhood, Zach, someone leaving their house in a golf cart with proper reflectivity, going down to a neighbor's house, you know, catching up with their neighbor and coming back to their house, all on in daylight and relatively safe manner.
So so there's currently no, how do I put this? So if we're within neighborhoods, it is currently illegal to drive a golf cart on city streets.
I would defer to our law enforcement officials, but generally, yeah. I mean, if you're going to operate a motor vehicle on city streets, you're going to have proper licensure. In, you know, there's a myriad of laws. This creates like a kind of carve out for these slow moving vehicles with some boundaries.
Does this, I mean, the way I look at this only, aside from neighborhoods themselves, with the amended motion, would only allow these vehicles to operate on one street outside of a neighborhood, and that would be Holly. Maybe
It's very restrictive. You're correct. It does allow for crossing of a bigger street as allowable, but it doesn't allow. You can't jump on. You know, we were talking about Garth Brooks, right? You can't jump on Garth Brooks and ride your because you might be plowed over by a semi truck. That's
and I was
going
going to mention that too. Before it was reduced to 30 miles an hour, Garth Brooks is not safe for those types of vehicles.
Absolutely, we agree with you there.
But I digress on that one. Does this mean also, though, that these vehicles have to be registered with the Oklahoma? I'm trying to think of it now. Basically tagged.
No,
But does that not violate state law?
not in our understanding. This legislation is modeled after other municipalities that have put in place. I mean, our neighbor to the west at El Reno has the same type of ordinance. Neighbor to the south in Blanchard has the same kind of ordinance. So there's other municipalities doing very similar things.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Castle.
Chief Corn, you want to give us your wisdom and knowledge on this, if you don't mind? Just tell us what we need to know.
Well, that pretty much covered it. Zach's questions, the mayor answered. There is current state statute dealing with the change that was made, which allowed for more of a utility type, be it the Polaris or Honda or Yamaha utility. Those could have been tagged with the tax commission. They had certain requirements that were to meet to be operated on roadway. This, with slow-moving vehicle ordinance, is strictly the city's decision. It is very restrictive. There is no title work required, and so those are the biggest changes.
Can you still pull these vehicles over?
Yes. Yeah, there's a myriad of things that are still safety concerns and violation of law concerns that would apply to these. So there are some stipulations built into this ordinance language that will be enforceable, not only in the permitting and stickering and the registration with the police department, but the enforcement of laws.
Have you heard of any issues with other cities, problems that they've had with similar ordinances?
We have not. The mayor addressed 2 cities we checked. Those were the same 2. There are a lot of municipalities larger that have influx of problems with these type of vehicles because they have no regulation. They happen to live or reside in neighborhoods surrounding golf courses, and it's a typical issue problem. If they had some ordinance language like this, it might be more manageable.
Do you have to have a driver's license? Is there a permit, age requirement?
Have to have a driver's license, 16 years of age. No passenger in the vehicle under the age of 6 unless the driver's 21.
What about seat belts and children in car seats?
Only if they are come equipped from the manufacturer.
What about car seats?
It's only relative to the age requirement, no car seat allowance in the ordinance language, because it's not a standard motorized vehicle. If it doesn't come equipped with a seat restraint, the car seat would not be required.
What about insurance? Our state minimum is already pretty low.
No, yes, there is no insurance requirement.
No drunk driving down to the convenience store.
That will still get you arrested. Yep.
Thank you, Chief Corn.
Thanks, Chief.
Hi,
Hi.
Lake and Castle, 728 Villa. My insurance agent would beg to differ that these do have to be actually, Oklahoma already addresses this, and it must be registered with the Oklahoma Tax Commission and display a valid license plate which we don't have in this ordinance. It's incomplete as it's written because it needs to say that they need to adhere to Oklahoma state law. You said that they have to adhere to the traffic regulations, but not to the regulations of what Oklahoma requires with headlamps, tail lamps, stop lamps, turn signals, reflectors. So it goes a little bit beyond that. They do have to have a valid Oklahoma license plate in order to be registered for insurance. Are you saying that Oklahoma car drivers who have to register, that we have to bear the responsibility for if one of these people pulls out in front of us? That's a question.
Okay.
Are you saying that?
Sorry, I'm not
are you-
familiar with the answer for the
Okay.
question.
You should call your insurance provider because they might find that interesting. Oklahoma Farm Bureau sure does.
Okay. Thank you, Ms.
They
Casey.
think that this is crazy. There's other things. Why are passengers under 6 allowed with a person under or over 21? Does this allow people to circumvent state laws, allowing them to have their child not in a car seat or a booster seat and be able to drive around without being in a booster seat? We as Oklahomans, we recognize that this is important for the safety of our children, that until the age of 8, or until I believe that they're 4'9", that they have to be restrained in a booster or a car seat. So why is it suddenly okay that they are in a vehicle without so much as a seatbelt, but they're not even gonna be in a car seat? Why is it okay that they can ride in that, but they can't ride in our cars? And we can be ticketed for these things. Furthermore, I would recommend that this be changed so that they have to have seatbelts, even if they are not manufactured with seatbelts, because most golf carts are not manufactured with the seatbelt. They do make aftermarket seatbelts, but it's very dangerous. You're also, once again, putting that on Oklahoma insured drivers. Also, will we have a chance to address the emergency clause after this? Will we have discussion about that at a second time?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'll be back. Thank you.
At this time, we're going to recess the city council meeting for this OMAG training that we're about 17 minutes late for. We shall resume the council meeting following that training. At this time, we'll return from recess as Yukon City Council. I will remove my motion that I have made on ordinance 1471. Vice Mayor, would you like to make a motion on this?
I make a motion that we table this until the next meeting so we can gather some more information on, make sure everything's tied in with state law.
Do I have a second? Thank you, Councilman Shriver. Any discussion? Seeing no more discussion, Madam Clerk, could you please call the vote?
Shriver?
Yes.
Wooten?
Yes.
Zimmer?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, you're fine. Zimmerman?
Yes.
Pillmore?
Yes. We'll remove item 5A as item 5 did not pass. This time we'll take up discussion of possible action on ordinance number 1472, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Yukon, Oklahoma, amending Chapter 215 Unified Development Code, Section 304 Permitted Use Table by amending prison correctional facility as a special use only in the I-2 Heavy Industrial District, and by defining and adding data center as a special use permit in the I-1 Light Industrial District, providing for repealer, severability, and declaring an emergency. I'll now open the discussion. Is there any discussion that council members would like to make? Any comment from the public on this item? At this time, I'll make a motion to pass ordinance 1472 as written. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing no more discussion, Madam Clerk, could you please call the vote?
Wooten?
Yes.
Pillmore?
Yes.
Shriver?
Yes.
Zimmerman?
Yes.
We'll now consider approving the emergency clause for ordinance 1472. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing no more discussion, Madam Clerk, could you please? Oh, go ahead.
Lincoln Castle, 728 Villa. Why are you using the emergency clause here?
Is there any other discussion on this item, or any other questions or comments that you have?
Is a question. Why are you using the emergency clause?
I'm not sure.
So, I don't know how to say this without sounding rude. You guys just put in an emergency clause and you don't know why? Do you know what emergency clauses are for?
I do, yes.
Okay, so why are you adding an emergency clause to this?
We've put it on the agenda to take it up, and now it will be considered and discussed and then voted upon.
So you guys are adding emergency clauses to everything then, to discuss and to vote on?
No, you'll see agenda items that do not have emergency clauses on them here.
Because emergency clauses have a specific meaning. You only use emergency clauses when following the statutory timeline would threaten the safety or well-being of the public, not just because you want it done quickly. So if you guys are attaching emergency clauses to every ordinance that you guys are doing, you're subverting the people and their notice. Okay? The Yukon city ordinances say that the normal timeline is 30 days before these are enacted. In order to do an emergency clause, you need to have proper reasoning. The term emergency typically refers to a situation that demands immediate action due to an urgent or serious threat to public peace, health, safety, or welfare. This is often invoked to enable temporary deviation from normal procedures, allowing for swift responses to events like natural disasters, public health crises, and other unforeseen circumstances. So what you're doing is you're circumventing the normal procedure that is set forth in city ordinances where these go into effect 30 days after with 10 days notice to the people in the newspaper. You can't just use emergency clauses on things that aren't emergencies. That's not the way that the legislative process works. And to use emergency clauses in areas that are not emergencies is known, quite frankly, as legislative abuse. You have to have a reason for the emergency to make these go into effect immediately. This is the way that the legislative process works. Does that make sense? I'm just saying, you can't just add emergency clauses to everything to see if it flies or not and to see if you guys have a vote. You have to have an actual reason to put an emergency clause attached to an ordinance. And you guys should state the emergency. And also, minor nitpick, whenever you guys are introducing these things, you should introduce the reasoning as part of the transparency to the public. Whenever you're putting up these ordinance or whatever, the reason why we're doing this so that the public knows why. But especially in an emergency clause, we need a reason for emergency. It can't just be because you want to ignore the 30 days and speed things up. Because otherwise it would seem like a lack of preparation on the city's part does not constitute an emergency on the citizens' part. Why you're taking away our right to the 10-day notice in the newspaper and the 30-day notice of the new thing that you're enacting. And especially people's water rates are going up. You should give them a few days to take notice of that, make preparations. Otherwise, this goes into effect tomorrow.
Ma'am, this is ordinance number 1472. So we have to stick to the discussion point here. This is not related to water rates.
No, this is the present one. Okay, so what's the reason for the zoning?
What is the reason for which zoning, ma'am? There's not a
What
zone.
is the emergency reason for changing the zoning or changing the way that these buildings go into these different areas? Do we have a prison? Do we have a prison?
These are regarding land use. These are permitted uses that are in a table in our city code.
Do we have a prison or correctional facility that's coming in the next 30 days?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so
There is, ma'am, these are regarding land uses, okay? So it's not regarding a specific facility that exists. These are permitted uses table
if
in
it
our city code.
doesn't, if it doesn't make a change, that this would make any difference going in tomorrow or 30 days.
I understand what you've communicated, Ms. Castle.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Suzanne Hagee, 720 Chateau Avenue. So just for clarification purposes, an emergency provision must state in a separate section the reasons why it is necessary that the measure becomes effective immediately. Are you telling us that you haven't stated in a separate section why
Ma'am,
it's becoming
Ma'am,
effective immediately?
the ordinance outlines the emergency section. Have you read the ordinance?
I have read it, and it does not say why and what is.
There's an entire clause that
I
defines
get
the
it.
emergency.
I get what an emergency clause is. I know what it is.
Okay.
But just saying it's an emergency doesn't define why it's an
The
emergency.
clause is a little, we're not going to discuss that clause because it's already passed. It was actually part of the original resolution. Now we're picking up that emergency clause, and we're going to vote on that. Are you disputing?
I still don't feel like I have an answer to the question about what
There's
is
an
the emergency.
Okay. I can't answer that for you.
I get that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions on this item? Seeing no more discussion, Madam Clerk, could you please call the vote?
Shriver?
Yes.
Pillmore?
Yes.
Zimmerman?
Yes.
Wooten?
Yes.
Now we'll have a discussion and possible action on ordinance number 1473, an ordinance providing amendments to the Code of Ordinances of the City of Yukon, Oklahoma by amending sections 114-34 and 114-35 by establishing high-volume user water surcharges, creating gray water billing rates subject to City Council approval, adding a gray water maintenance fee, clarifying multi-meter aggregation for billing purposes, revising commercial water rate tiers, and limiting gray water service based on availability, providing for repealer, severability, and declaring an emergency. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Second. Is there any discussion on this item?
Mr. City Manager, is this your area to discuss on, or is this Mitch? Or I know we blame Mitch for everything.
Well, let's, if you have a question, sure, go ahead. And
Can you break this down, kind of what's going on with this one, on what's going to be considered a high volume user, and then talking about the gray water?
So in terms of the high volume user, we've set the rate at 1 million gallons, and it's a tiered rate, and it would go to $10, I believe, Mayor, per 1,000 gallons for that rate. And then in terms of gray water, it's important to realize that we're not actually, what the ordinance is calling for is a separate agreement that we would enter into. Gray water is a very unique circumstance when you're using gray water, and gray water usage is one firm, one company, one development might use gray water in one way, and another company might use it in another way. You need to have a unique agreement for each gray water usage, and that's what the ordinance calls for. So it's just really laying out the framework, if you will, for gray water usage.
So on this high volume, we're talking, you say, 1 million gallons.
Yes, sir.
So how many current users would you say we have that do 1 million gallons a month?
I'm not aware of any that are doing 1 million gallons.
I think last year,
a
based on
month.
the analysis that the city manager sent to me, there were 2 users that briefly crested that million mark in 2 months. So there were like 2 users that crested that mark, a tiny amount. It's based, this threshold was established to like not impact anybody currently, but envision again the framework where water is one of our most precious resources as a city, and so, you know, the city manager, the assistant city manager, the staff, and our great utility billing department, they've envisioned a scenario where we protect that resource without putting an undue burden. If we had a high volume user, it could put an undue burden on our broader citizens that today are receiving water and add costs to the system.
So this isn't going to affect just the average family?
No,
no,
it
not
won't
at all.
affect, yeah, it won't even touch them.
Not unless the average family is using 1 million gallons per month.
It's a big swimming pool.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or discussion on this item? Yes, ma'am.
Suzanne Hagee again. So you're telling me there were 2 users you said last year that reached 1 million?
In like, I think in 2 of the months of the, I asked the city manager for our top 10
Right.
users over the course of 12 months. and looked at those volumes. Our idea or our design was to not.
So we're not
impact-
talking about, we're talking about commercial usage for the most part.
Oh, yeah.
And again, my question is, why is this an emergency? If we have two that used it last year in some unknown span of time, I don't understand why it's an emergency.
Yeah, I understand.
And so that's my question. And I say that not to be disrespectful. I say it because when you put emergency in there, that gives me an idea that, oh, there's something urgent. Is there something wrong? Should I be looking at something? And then if you tell me you can't tell me what the emergency is, I'm thinking, then why is it in there?
I think in the case of water, ma'am, it's one of the key areas that we're focused
I
on.
get it, but you said that,
And it is urgent that we put in place this framework to protect all of our citizens from high volume water usage that could come online.
so are you anticipating that in the next 30 days, we're gonna have
You
like
could have a
several
water
people?
user, you could have a water user that could request water service, and
You
right
could.
now, we do not have a mechanism. And the same thing with gray water usage. You could have a user that says, hey, I want gray water. Well, we don't have, like, this prevents a user from getting gray water without a separate explicit agreement with the city. Puts
I
in
get
place
that. I mean, I don't really understand gray water, but I understood the explanation about why you wanna do it. I still don't understand why it's an
water is,
emergency.
yeah, I think well,
Oh, water's gold in Yukon, I get it.
Yeah.
I pay a water
It's-
bill.
well,
It's,
well,
it's-
the lack of water is
right,
is
it's a
our
problem.
concern,
It can
ma'am.
be a problem.
Yeah.
But my question is, not you're anticipating that it might happen at some time in the future and we not have water. To me, that is not an emergency.
Yeah, I understand.
So-
I understand your perspective.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other comments on this item? Seeing no more discussion, Madam Clerk, could you please call the vote?
Shriver,
Yes.
Pillmore,
Yes.
Zimmerman,
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
At this time, we'll now consider approving emergency clause for ordinance number 1473. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing no more discussion, Madam Clerk, could you please call the vote?
Wooten,
Yes.
Shriver,
No.
Zimmerman,
Yes.
Pillmore.
Yes. Now we'll consider approving amendment number 1 for Lakeshore Water Line improvements for an increased amount of $41,235.77 for a total cost of $1,004,921.14 as recommended by the city engineer. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
On discussion, I had a brief discussion with Robbie. Is Robbie still here?
No, Mayor, I think he's left.
Yeah, so I had a brief discussion with him. He said this is just a small cost overrun because they had to dig a little bit further. That was the explanation I got earlier this week, or I guess it was last week. Any other questions that you guys have on this item? Seeing no more discussion, Madam Clerk, could you please call the vote?
Wooten,
Yes.
Pillmore,
Yes.
Shriver,
Yes.
Zimmerman.
Yes.
Now we'll have a discussion and possible action to approve the request from Riz Najmi NAFA Engineering for a simplified planned unit development located at 1225 Vandeman Avenue as recommended by the Planning Commission. I will now open the discussion. Do we have anyone that would like to speak on this item?
Sharon O'Brien at 1210 Dorchester Court. Lived there since 1980. It's a brand-new house when I moved in there. This has been a field back there, and it hasn't been taken care of. I don't have a problem with something being built back there, but I do not look forward to having a two-story condo that can see right in my backyard if it's going to be that close, because my backyard mainly is on the side. I have very little backyard. They're going to be able to see right in there. And why we can't have something commercial go in there if something wants to go, but I don't think we need. And my biggest concern is I found out today in the wording it says something about affordable housing. Does that mean it's going to be low income?
That was not my understanding visiting with the developer, that they don't want to do Section 8 or low income. But I also didn't see what you read.
Yeah, well, like I said, I don't have a problem with something being back there because I think it will help with all of the trash and everything that we've dealt with for a long time in that field. And with different owners and not taking care of it and mowing it and everything. The fence is in very bad shape. And I don't know, I just can't see why we have to have there's all these new apartment complexes. Why do we need 24 units put back there behind our house so that they can see everything that we're doing? So,
Thank you, ma'am.
Rez Najmi, NAFA Engineering. I'm the one presenting this. Just for the comment on fences, we will be putting new fences back in as a part of the SPUD. And to her comment on privacy, I think we have an enhanced landscaping code. The Planning Commission made us go over and beyond to put 10% open space in the overall area, out of which 8% would be between the residential houses. And then we are required to put trees at every 15 feet, 25 feet was the code. So, and then the fences, like I said. So we are trying to do, and then looking into the backyard, I mean, if it was up to us, we wouldn't have any windows, but the code requires bedroom to have windows, so that's the part. But we tried to push the buildings as far away from the property line as possible. We left more than 15 feet at some places to keep the buildings away from there. And that's just to give the privacy hedges with the neighbors.
Thank you, sir.
Just in regards, sorry, Sharon O'Brien again, in regards to their shrubs and everything, just last year, I had a tree in my backyard that I tried to cut down, and we got most of it because I was tired of cleaning up after it. Now they're going to come and put all these trees, so I'm going to have trees to clean up after again.
Thank you, ma'am.
Nancy Seaton, 905 Lancaster Drive. I'm not at the fence line with them. I'm on the other side of the neighborhood. But my concern is adding that many more families to the school system and also the traffic in that area. I realize if it is a commercial property, there will still be increased property or increased traffic, but it won't be around the clock. Also, 15 feet from somebody's fence, that's awfully close in my opinion. And another question is, as big as our fire trucks and stuff are, I'm sure the codes would be in place to make sure that the fire trucks could get in around this property. So just food for thoughts.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Erica Swan. I live at 904 Garden Grove. Had the opportunity to speak last week. Mr. Zimmerman wasn't present. Been in Yukon since 2001, living here. I'm all for the commercial development of this, getting the tax revenue going. Really the question is a 5-word question everybody's asking. What's in it for me, right? City has a vested interest in making sure to balance economic needs of the city as well as needs of the residents who are going to be dealing with any changes that come up with this particular lot. There's affordable housing that's been mentioned. I mean, everybody sees it. Great opportunity for people to come out here that haven't lived in Yukon before. Those weren't there 12 months ago, so that's great. So the thought is, well, do we really have to have these here? Is that really necessary for that lot? What do I gain out of it? More shops, if we're talking commercial aspect. I want more choice in that area. I don't always have to like to go over to Garth Brooks, you know. So things that are closer, that'd be nice. City gets tax revenue. The builders get something, right? But for the residents that live right up against it, I'd like to see more of a win. We talk about trees every 15 feet, but what kind of trees are we talking about? Fast grow, slow grow, invasive roots, not able to handle with our winds and our ice storms. What about thick hedges, evergreen, coniferous or deciduous leaf, tall, easy to maintain, hopefully. I know that's idealistic, but something that could be really tall. We're talking about fencing. What kind of fencing are we talking about? 8-foot fencing? You know, just, I'm trying to think about what's best for the people up against it. I'm not up against it, but pretty close. So, yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing something go in there, but I prefer the commercial aspect. But if we're going to do it this way, why not talk about those things? And also, what about having housing one level if we're going to have it instead of having 2 levels? So, thank you very much for taking our comments.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Sorry, I forgot to mention. Last week, I'm Sharon O'Brien, 1210 Dorchester Court. I was driving up 50th around Meridian, and they were building some condos there. And I'd like to just share the picture. This is what I envisioned, what I'm gonna be looking at. This is, sorry, this is houses right there, and look how close.
Yes, ma'am, I can see that. Thank you.
And I feel like that's what
Under-
we're gonna be looking
I
at.
understand your concern. Thank you.
And I look at it, yeah, I look at the plan, and I don't mind what I see on the plan. I think the plan looks nice. The question where I'm at is that giving up the commercial property in the city of Yukon. That's what's been weighing on my mind from the start of this.
Any other discussion on this item? Seeing no more discussion, Madam
Got one
Clerk.
coming up.
Oh, sorry.
Until I had to, Stephanie Burdine, 515 Maple. Until I had to start attending meetings last month and had planned to do it anyway since I was going to live a block away, and I heard about this, I remember reading something in the paper thinking, there's not room. I mean, this is a lot of houses I'm thinking row houses that were built in the 1840s, not Yukon, and there seems to be a huge concern for commercial development. Why would we give up commercial development to build something so dense? It just doesn't make sense, and I feel for the property owners over there, and I really think you all need to seriously take into consideration the property owners, the citizens here. What is best for us? What is our quality of life? We all live in Yukon, a lot of us, because of the quality of life. And I think this decision, you all really need to look at the quality of life to those people that have invested their hard-earned money in those homes there and what is gonna really be in their backyard. I wouldn't want somebody looking out their window into my backyard being 15 feet away. That's what, here to me to you, Rob?
Close.
So just please give this some serious consideration. I think the city might be better off keeping that commercial. That's just my opinion on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Burdine.
Riz Najmi, NAF Engineering. Just wanted to share my 2 cents on Mr. Zimmerman's comment as well as the lady's comment about commercial. This is commercial, and we are in the best interest of development trying to use as much commercial as we can in the frontage. The land has remained undeveloped for years and years for a reason. It's behind a complex. I mean, even though it's zoned commercial, there's no practical sense. I mean, it doesn't have the economic viability to make sense, to put shops up there and expect business. So, I mean, if it doesn't go through this, it's probably gonna stay vacant. And that's probably what the neighbors might like best, because everybody loves open land. But it's not gonna generate tax revenue if you just leave it as commercial land. The frontage of these, if you look at the zoning map, we're leaving the frontage as commercial, and we are putting commercial up there. The back part is where we are trying to propose some residential units, and 24 units in 2 acres is not much. I mean, that's 2 acres of land back there, just the back. I mean, the front 1 acre we are still leaving it as commercial out of the 3 acres. The 2 acres, we're putting 24 units. And it's still, I understand it's changing the zoning, but it's still revenue as opposed to leaving it vacant, which it is gonna stay vacant if it's put that way. So that's just my comment on that.
Thank you, Mr. Najmi.
Do y'all want me to say my name again?
Ms. Burdine, go ahead and speak.
Okay. This thought just occurred to me. If that needs to become housing, let's make it housing that truly is needed. Single-story, handicap accessible housing for seniors. It's not going to interfere with other people's backyards. it's a much-needed housing solution. And if it couldn't be used for commercial property, then why don't we consider doing something that would help the fastest growing population we have, senior citizens and people that need handicap housing, because there is a shortage of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Burdine.
Sharon O'Brien, I'm confused what he was talking about, the front and the back.
Yeah, Ms. Burdine, or I'm sorry, remind me of your name.
O'Brien, I'm sorry.
Ms. O'Brien. He was referring to on the sides of the properties,
I know
for
it's
lack
a
of a better
fine-
phrase, kind of like a wide U.
Yes.
The pieces that are on the sides of that U are commercial.
Okay.
And then the units against against that back line are residential. Ma'am, do you have any other comments that would add to this discussion?
No, I don't guess, but
Okay.
her idea was really good. I know that's needed.
Yep, go ahead. Mr. Doan.
Joe Doan, 704 Sidetrack Road. I just wanted to make a comment or ask a question. I don't know how to pronounce your name. Najmi. You said it was not viable for commercial, but that you're saying you can bring in commercial, so I'm just a little confused on that.
Sir, I think what he was explaining, just for sake of time, because I spoke to Mr. Najmi a week and a half ago, and he was very thoughtful about his development that he's considered and done a feasibility study and traffic study and so on. He's saying that the traffic count that he would expect behind the area where Tony's Tacos and the donut shop and all that good stuff is there, behind that, he didn't see as being viable for commercial. So he put commercial on the side and residential in the back. That was his. Is that accurate, Mr. Najmi? Okay.
Thank you.
For sake, is there anyone else that has something meaningful to add on this discussion point? Because I know some people are here to hear about some other topics. Okay. Seeing no more discussion, Madam Clerk, would you please call the vote?
Do we have a motion?
We don't have a motion.
We don't have.
Oh, sorry. We opened the discussion. Do I hear a motion?
I move to deny the SPUD.
I'll second that. Any discussion? Seeing no more discussion, Madam Clerk, could you please call the vote?
Pillmore,
Yes.
Wooten,
Yes.
Zimmerman,
Yes.
Shriver.
Yes.
Seeing that item 9 did not pass, we will not take up item 10. We'll move on to item 11. At this time, we'll consider convening. At this time, we'll consider convening into executive session pursuant to Oklahoma Statutes Title 25, Section 307B4 for confidential communications with the city attorney concerning pending investigation into City of Yukon funds held by Yukon Community Support Foundation and taking appropriate action in open session. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing no more discussion, Madam Clerk, could you please call the vote?
Pillmore,
Yes.
Shriver,
Yes.
Zimmerman,
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
For executive session, like Mr. Beal, Mr. Reinhardt, Mr. Castro to join us. Yes, so we can take up both executive sessions. I'm so sorry. At this time, we'll consider convening into executive session pursuant to Oklahoma Statutes Title 25, Section 307B2 for confidential communications with the city manager regarding IAFF contract negotiations and taking appropriate action in open session. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk, is there any discussion? Seeing no more discussion, Madam Clerk, could you please call the vote?
Wooten,
Yes.
Shriver,
Yes.
Zimmerman,
Yes.
Pillmore.
Yes. At this time, we'll consider reconvening from executive session. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing no more discussion, Madam Clerk, could you please call the vote?
Wooten,
Yes.
Pillmore,
Yes.
Zimmerman,
Yes.
Shriver.
Yes.
I'll now read the minutes of the executive session. During the executive session, only the items on the agenda were discussed, no action was taken, and no votes were cast. At this time, we'll consider motions for possible action. First motion I'll make is to authorize the city manager, city attorney, and mayor to discuss resolution with YCSF with any final agreement to be expressly approved by the full city council. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing no more discussion, Madam Clerk, would you please call the votes?
Wooten,
Yes.
Zimmerman,
Yes.
Pillmore,
Yes.
Shriver.
Yes.
I'll make a second motion to approve the collective bargaining agreement with the International Association of Firefighters Local 255 as presented by the city manager for the time period of 2025 to 2027. Do I hear a second?
So moved.
Any discussion? Just add that I think our firefighters do an outstanding job and our city is blessed. I've seen it with my extended family. They're a phone call away, whether it's a slip and fall or a diabetic emergency or anything. They're always on the ball. I live 4 blocks from Station 2 and hear their sirens often and think about the people that are being helped. All right, at this time, we'll have our visitor section of the agenda. Anyone having an
Mayor,
item?
we need to vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought, okay. Madam Clerk, seeing no more discussion on the firefighters collective bargaining agreement, would you please call the vote?
Zimmerman,
Yes.
Pillmore,
Yes.
Wooten,
Yes.
Shriver.
Yes.
Thank you. All right. At this time, we'll have our visitors section of our agenda. Anyone having an item of business to present to the city council that does not appear on the agenda, please come to the podium at this time. We do have one member who has signed up beforehand, so we'll take that one first and then everyone else. State your name and address. You're requested to limit your presentation to 3 minutes. Any item being presented must pertain to the City of Yukon business. Mr. Bishop, would you please approach the podium? Wait for a couple of minutes, or a minute here, Mr. Bishop, while it gets set up for you. Please.
Okay. I'm Trey Bishop, 12541 West Reno. Yikes.
Madam, is it Lakin? Is that your daughter? Are you okay?
We're gonna.
Okay.
We're already aware.
Thank you, Lisa.
Can I introduce it real fast? We're going to be watching an arrest video. I want you to pay special attention to what the dispatch says and what the officer sees when he approaches the door and what he does. Do we have volume? I think we missed the dispatch. The arrest of Brock Elliott, people.
933 Lynn Lane on the disturbance. It's going to be Brock Elliott. RP's advising he is intoxicated in the garage tearing up the house. 10-4.
I want you to think about whether or not being intoxicated in your own home is a crime.
RP's advising the individual is also on 1074.
Notice she didn't indicate anybody was being harmed in the house.
Hey man, are you Brock?
Yeah.
Okay, can you come outside? Do you want to put the milk down?
What's the problem?
Okay, well, here's the deal, man.
What's up?
So,
What's the deal, bro? What the fuck you doing? Hey! What the fuck? What you doing, bro?
hey,
Yo!
just calm down, man.
Bro, what the hell's going on? I'm going to have a fight. I'm gonna kill you. Mom! Stop it! Mom! Alright, like, can you understand me?
You can end the video now if you like. The video is on my YouTube page if anybody cares to see the entire thing. The reason I'm here tonight telling you about Brock Elliott's arrest and showing this video is because he can't. He's dead. He died 3 hours after he was delivered to the Kennedy County Jail, alone in his cell, foaming at the mouth. The medical report said that he had contusions around his neck. You can obviously see the officer had a headlock on him, and that he had a baggie of meth in his stomach. And you can see from the video, he didn't have any clothes on. He didn't have any way to stick a baggie of meth, swallow it. He didn't know he was going to jail. I want you to pay attention to the fact, I want everybody to pay attention to the fact that the police officer was not invited into the house. He made entry without invitation. A 911 call is not an instant invitation to enter a house. There was no exigent circumstances. Nobody was being harmed. Brock was drunk in his own house. There was no reason for an arrest. This kind of Fourth Amendment violation could happen to any one of us at any time, and I think that it's something you need to pay attention to.
Thank you, Mr. Bishop.
Am I out of time?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, I'll come back
I appreciate your comments.
finish up.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak? Yes, Ms. Burdine.
Stephanie Burdine again. I just want to.
Could you say your address again, just for our city
Okay.
clerk? She has a hard job to do.
She does, 515 Maple.
Thank you so much.
I just want you all to please consider not going into business with J.W. Roth and Venue. His business model requires a partnership. It requires the sale of fire pits, which might be great in Colorado, where it gets down into the 50s and 40s at night, even in the summer. That doesn't happen here. That's a big, huge part of his business model. And then I still can't quite figure out his third thing, the ownership thing, where he wants to be like Jerry Jones, how that would affect it. He has no 7 months of an amphitheater is not a proven business model. It's just not. Other businesses have not always been successful, and the first part of his business model with the citizens of a town having to spend money, that's gonna probably be $40 million. There's less than 28,000 people in the Yukon city limits. Where is that money gonna come from? Rod, I've known you a long, long time. I know how you are with taxes. I respect your position on that. How in the world can you think this is good for the citizens of Yukon? $40 million at a minimum. I just can't. I've researched, I've read, I've looked. I can't find anything good. I cannot find anything good about this gentleman. And you all need to seriously think about putting all of Yukon in a financial place. Nobody here is against wanting to develop that land and turn it into something that's good for the citizens of Yukon and good for the tax base. This is just not the answer. It's just not. And I really hope you all will do some more research on Mr. Roth. I can't imagine anyone wanting to be his business partner. I don't.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Any other comments? It's Mr. Doan.
Joe Doan, 704 Sidetrack. You know, I've heard a lot of things, read a lot of things, positives and negatives, and maybe just rumors that 50% of the people are for this, 50% of the people are against this. I don't really know. I know what I've read and what people have told me, but one of the things I wanted to see is if this is such a hot button issue and such an important topic and such an important item that will affect the next 20 years or whatever, or forever for Yukon, why don't we just bring it a vote to the people? Let the people vote, let the people decide, as opposed to just a small group of people thinking what's best for the majority. So, I mean, I'm willing to, hey, let's put it to vote and see where that falls. And if it's what the people want, okay. But I at least think that we should at least ask the people what they want.
Thank you, Mr. Doan. Mr. Horn.
For those of you that don't know me, my name's Joe Horn. My address is 102 South Fifth. As you're well aware, I was chairman of the Board of Adjustments for many years until recently. One of the things that I believed in during my time on the board, and something I tried to follow on every decision, is that the people should have the absolute right to enjoy their property as they see fit, so long as it does not negatively impact those around them. I have watched as property owners after property owners have come up and explained the many ways that this proposed scam theater will affect the enjoyment of their property, not to mention the property values. I've watched as this council politely allowed these folks to speak and give facts that back up every one of their valid complaints, with not one argument for this proposal. And I have watched you, Brian, as you said, and I repeat, this isn't a popular vote. At the end of the day, it's a focus on what's best for our community. What's best for our community, which includes the impact of our community. So, and this is your words, so we're listening to those residents, we're listening to them. In general, when people are adamantly against something, they're very vocal. These people have been very vocal. When people are casually for something, well, they're not quite so vocal. They're pretty quiet. You said you were listening to the people. You claim the majority is silent, and you ignored every person in this chamber as you immediately cast your vote in favor of your, as you put it, the entertainment district. And only former Mayor Selby listened to the people with her no vote. Brian, you're the councilman that represents these people. Ward 3, more specifically, the folks in Precinct 10, 210, that are immediately affected by this. 128 of those people put you in that seat right there. And I promise you, every one of them regret it today. Prove me wrong. Do what you are elected to do and represent these people.
Thank you, Mr. Horn. Any other comments? Ms. Hobbs.
Hi, how are you?
Very
Lisa
well.
Hobbs, 715 Kingsgate Road. So we have a friend that's in the finance business. Ask him to check out this company for us. He started looking into the stocks this company and the holdings. Said he wouldn't touch it for anything. He said this company has no skin in any game. This guy's got nothing to lose and everything to gain. Except for us. We will be the ones that'll pay the price for it. I can't imagine. We've elected 5 people to represent us. 5 of you. Our future, our happiness, our property values, our peace of mind, our well-being rest on you 5. And you're not listening. You don't answer questions. You push it through. There's no discussions with your people. You just yes, yes, yes. Let's just keep pushing it through. Why are you not listening? Why are you putting all your chickens in one basket? Why are you not exploring other things? I bet if you ask the people here tonight, would we support a bond to build a sports complex versus this? Absolutely. Absolutely, I would. You want to be a hero? Do something different. You want to make a name for yourself? Do something positive for our community, for the citizens, not people that are going to drive in 70 times a year maybe, if they come that often. What about us, the people that elected you, that live here? Do we not matter? I'm asking you, do we not matter?
Ms. Hobbs, in the visitor section, we're not allowed to respond to you. I wish I could. I wish
Well,
I
then
could.
I'm asking you all to
I
think
appreciate
about
the
that.
questions, and we're definitely listening.
I mean, we're your neighbors.
Yes,
We're
ma'am.
friends, we might be relatives, we might go to church together. We matter. We pay our taxes. We have a right to enjoy our homes, just like you do. If it was being put in your backyard, you might be thinking differently, but you've got a little bit of a buffer that we're not gonna have. So it may not be as hard on you as it will be on us. But we're entitled to our peace, our home, to choose to go to a concert, not have it forced on us, and certainly not the lyrics, which I know have been presented to you from some of the songs that will be played. I have grandchildren that live there. I don't want them to have to go to bed on a Friday night and listen to some of the lyrics that are being played. And you wouldn't want your daughter or your son to listen to them either. None of you would. So what we're asking is, don't put all your chickens in this one bad basket. Look at some other alternatives. Like I said, we've all thrown out ideas. We've all offered to work with you to come up with some other solutions. So you have a chance to be a hero here and do something good for our community, not the people that are just gonna drive in for the concert, tear up the streets, litter the streets, drinking and driving, disturbing our peace. Do something for our community.
Thank you, Ms. Hobbs. Any other comments? Seeing no more discussion at this time, Madam Clerk, is there any new business?
No new business, Mayor.
At this time, we'll open up the floor for each council person to say a few words in closing. This time is reserved for announcements, recognitions, etc. It's not intended for the conduct of city business by the members of the public body. Councilmember Zimmerman.
I'd like to congratulate the high school's Winter Guard varsity group that won a state competition this past weekend up in Tulsa. Something I'd never heard of until the last couple of years. My daughter joined the JV, and so I've gotten to go witness this and just happened to be there to watch it. So it was really good.
Impressive. Councilmember Shriver.
After the proclamation today, I'd just like to give a heartfelt thanks to all the veterans in the room. 100-year-old man, World War II veteran, is pretty impressive. So for all those that served, we greatly appreciate it.
Vice Mayor Wooten.
Echo what Mr. Shriver said, and that's all I've got tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. A couple of interesting events coming up. Festival of the Child, a few weeks away. Saturday, May the 3rd. It's held in City Park. Advance tickets are $5 per child. Day of tickets, $7 per child. Adults are free. There's over 60 different activities, pony rides, petting zoo, food trucks, etc. I think fun for the whole family, and definitely take your kids out there, grandkids. Parks and Rec summer programs are being signed up for now. Look for signups at yukonok.gov/catalog. Swim lessons, swim team, water fitness, kids camp, pitch hit run, cooking and art classes, and more. There's something for the whole family there. Lastly, I'd just like to say we are listening. And I know contrary to what some may feel, I've had really good conversations with my neighbors and those I represent inside of living rooms at the Frisco Ridge Pavilion and elsewhere. We are listening, and the feedback has been really healthy. We care about our city and we care about our neighbors. I know it doesn't always feel that way when you feel like something isn't going your way, or a proposal that you're upset about. Reach out to us. I promise you we're listening. Thank you so much. At this time, this meeting is adjourned.